Hey, babe. Don't forget we gotta get ready in 2 hours for that event, okay?
I got so much to do. How am I ever gonna get this done?
Jay, so do we need to cancel? What are you wearing? It's game night.
All right, you guys, Dave Man Max 6, and we are back on JayTV, and I've got two of my favorite people over here. Four-time Mr. Olympia, Jay Cutler, and we have the great Sergio Oliva Jr. all the way from Australia. So glad to have you, Sergio. Welcome to Muscle Beach TV on JayTV, dude.
Thanks, I appreciate it. This is really cool, man. You guys have had some like stellar people on the show so far during this like Corona time. So for me to be a part of it means a lot.
Well, you were on our list. We always say, Jay and I, we've been on, we had this list of interviews, people that we wanted to do Skype interviews. But when everything was normal, we never really found the time. So this kind of gives us a good reason to do it, And since you're far away now, we're like, hey, let's check with Sergio, see what he's up to. His life seems great, and let's check up with him,
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's tough too to say say things are great. I think I'm just in a great area. But I think really it comes down to just everybody should be making the best of the situation anyway, no matter what it is.
yeah,
And like we were just talking about before, I'm really just kind of staying to myself anyway. I'm really kind of like a hermit crab already as it is. So even if I was back home, I would be doing the same thing. I mean, I literally don't see anybody. I mean, no real bodybuilders do. I mean, that's the hard part. That's why you lose relationships and friendships, is because you go into that hole and man, you literally go to the gym, you go home, and you might go back to the gym, but otherwise you're not really doing much. So really the lifestyle, except for the gyms being closed, it shouldn't be that much different for a lot of pros.
we know what's cool is as you were leaving for Columbus and then Australia, you literally transplanted your whole entire house in Columbus and to Australia. So you have your dogs, your roommate, you have Chris. Really, nothing has changed for you. You still have all your
Right.
people. So that's
It
awesome.
really wasn't. I was just stuck in crappy Ohio. It was so cold. I shouldn't have went as early as I did. I did regret going that early. I should have. Not as late as Dexter. I feel like Dexter gets off the plane and literally goes right to prejudging. But maybe in between, somewhere between when I left and when Dex got there, I should have went.
Yeah, you were saying that on the last episode we shot actually of your Flying Under the Radar series, and usually you're in a hurry to go, but this time because you were in San Diego and everything was so great, you were like, I don't really want to go so early this time.
Yeah, but luckily I did, because I had like a really bad reaction with my legs. I was holding water up until probably Wednesday before the show. They were so swollen, like bad. And
Wow.
yeah, what I did is I wanted to get like some cupping done, and I had them go pretty hard on it. But then I literally got on a plane the next day, and I think while that was still healing, they swelled up. I looked like Nutty Professor in the lower body. So it actually took almost about 5 days to get that water out. So next time I won't leave as early, but I also won't get that done right before I leave. That was not smart.
Yeah. Sergio, I want to talk a little bit about the Arnold, but before we do that, I really wanted to, from myself and Jay's behalf, to thank you for that great series that we had the chance to do with you leading up to the show, because it was such a great series, and I knew it was going to be good, and I'm glad we did it as often as we could, and the goal was, for me at least, for people to get to know you as the person that I know. And I think that came out through the series, and then of course, leading up to the contest, which you did so good, and we're so happy for you. Talk to me a little bit about getting to Columbus and that experience at the Arnold, because that was your first one. So talk to me about that.
Well, yeah, one with the show. I want to thank you guys, or especially you, Dave, because I it was just literally what I would have been doing anyway. And there just happened to be a camera, and you would ask me a couple questions every now and then. It's really hard. I mean, any pro knows. After the show, you know, you started eating again, and the photo shoots, you got that rebound. It looks really good. So those photo shoots never are rough. But man, the like series leading into things. I mean, Jay probably could tell you the old Battle for the Olympias and stuff like that. And those are really cool because you could have a DVD. But nowadays, you don't have that DVD anymore, you know? So it's really just someone following you around, interrupting your workouts, kind of like distracting you. And sometimes they really are not beneficial at all, even whatever views or fans that they're going to get you. So you just making that so easy and literally like no change to my life was really the best part about it. So you're, I think, understanding this life, because you have to get it. You have to for a show to document that. That it really was, like I said, it was fun. Like I didn't just like it, of course, at all, but I actually liked it. I liked that you were there. I was looking forward to it. And any pro will tell you when the camera's on, you know, you train a little bit better, you do a little bit better. But when you have your friend who is also the cameraman, it's just a different dynamic, you know? And so you and Chris being there, and even you guys like chatting, you know, in between sets and stuff like that, like it really, like, I don't know, it kind of motivated. I felt like I had like two family members that were like kind of looking down on me, like, you know, our son's about to play in the baseball game, you know, like it was just different. It really was. And it was really cool. But with the Arnold, yeah, man, I like we said on the series, you know, we kind of really talked about everything. We covered everything, but I just told myself that I wanted to go into it and be able to say that I did everything I could. And that just relieved an insane amount of stress that I've never had at a show before. And I did. There's nothing I could have done. Every body part that, you know, I felt like, man, it could have been better. I know in the back of my head, I couldn't have made it any better. I probably could have. There's a couple of things I've talked about with the Cedar I want to change for the next show. When I start to drop water, my chest and my back like immediately disappear. It's just something that I gotta figure out I gotta time that a little bit better. But it's not like I could have trained better. I could have put more emphasis into my back or chest. I was doing them twice a week already, what it was. So it really was fun. Like when I did the Olympia the first time, I knew I really at the time in my life, I was so depressed. I was going through all that shit with my wife that I was just happy to be there. And that's what I was telling her. But I was like, I'm just going to enjoy the moment and I'm going to have fun. But I didn't do well, you know, like, of course I had fun, but I fucking got last place. This time I actually had fun, and I actually was up there with the best. So it was just a completely different, I was able for the first time to be able to be the fan and the bodybuilder at the same time. Where at the Olympia, I was just a fan. I was just someone else's son from a long time ago and a fan. And I was just looking around like, oh my God, look at this person. And this Arnold was different. Like I described it to all my friends like when you go to high school for the first time when you're a freshman, you know, you go backstage, like, where do you sit? You know, you have like Dexter and his crew and then, you know, and other people. And I just was right in there with all of them. They really welcomed me in. And as great as the placing was, and as great as the time with Arnold and that time on stage was great. My favorite time was really backstage and actually feeling like I'm finally belong where I'm supposed to be. And they made me feel like that.
Wow.
You know what I love, Sergio, is, you know, it's, you know, I wish you congratulations, but, you know, leading up to the show, you gave us an inside look of your life, right? And I know, like, when I filmed a lot of stuff leading up to contests, I was frustrated sometimes to have the cameras there, right? Because I didn't want to talk. And what I loved about your approach was, like, you know, you had confidence, and people may take it as arrogance a little bit, but what I loved is that you didn't hide what your condition was. Like, you were in a tank top. And when we shot, I always express how important it is for a guy to showcase his talents. And I'm watching your social media, dude, you don't wear a shirt with sleeves on it at this point. And I think that's how you market yourself, right? And I said to people, like, leading up to the show, I think this gave you a great boost being on the channel and showing that, hey, I'm confident. Whereas, you know what, if you never shot with us and we didn't speak, Sergio, I don't know if I would have been like, oh, he's a front runner for the show, because there were so many headliners, right? And guys that have already placed. And sometimes the guys, it's like, what have you done for me lately, right? And you hadn't competed in a while. So I think that it's so important, the marketing side that you're putting forward, to showcase the physique and show the confidence. And I think that should spill off to some of your competitors. and the people that follow you that are trying to build their momentum. How do you feel about that?
Wow, yeah, that means a lot because if anything, I felt like me not posting any progress pics. I didn't post one progress pic. And usually in these videos, we would have went up to the posing room, we would have did a couple, your mandatory stuff like that. And I didn't do that at all because I did kind of want to go about this kind of like secretive. But it's funny, and it's looking at it from your point of view that you're right, I didn't. I wasn't in a hoodie. I wasn't in a hoodie once. I mean, Sean Roden wears like 2 hoodies when he's getting ready for a show. And yeah, I mean, and then right, Kai literally wears a hoodie with a zip-up hoodie over. I don't even know how he does not die of dehydration. But right, that's the norm. And I think one, I like to put my personality through my shirts. I think like a different shirt we did every time was different. And there was people commenting on it. It was so crazy where I remember when I was growing up and I would watch people training and I was like, man, the clothing is boring, and I get it now because I'm into it now. And you have like this sponsor and this sponsor and this sponsor. You almost just have to like put this outfit together so you can knock out all your sponsors in one. But that was the benefit of not having a sponsor, is I didn't have to do that. So I was able to do that just kind of with random clothes. But I was worried that me not posting pictures was going to actually hurt me. So I'm glad that hearing it from your side that it was the opposite, and it actually kind of showed that I was feeling really good about myself. But when you gain 13 pounds of muscle, you'd be pretty stupid not to be confident in yourself.
I'm telling you, Sergio, every time I would tell Jay I'm going to shoot Sergio today, on my way back, he would text me, would call me, how does he look? How does he look? Send me pictures. I'm not joking with you. And I was excited to put the video out because I couldn't wait for him to see it. And as we were getting closer to the show, he was hoping you were going to do well the whole time. He called it like 13 weeks out. But as we kept getting closer, he was like, holy shit, you're not lying. Same thing with Cito. And so I'm glad that you did what you did. And I'm glad that you were open with everything. We never really had to rehearse anything. We never had to talk about anything. You just did what you did. And I thought that was great. Yeah.
But again, it was you, because if you would have put in, I'm not naming any names, put someone else in there, I would have been closed off, because then I don't feel like I'm just having a conversation with a friend. I feel like it's forced and it's fake, and people can like me or not, but that's the one thing I'm never going to be, is like fake or scripted, and that's definitely not me. So again, you're just giving yourself more credit.
Well, anyway.
Sergio, have you found a new home? Is San Diego like your place now? Do you think you found security there and training and we've talked about this. You're a Chicago guy. You went to Gold's Venice. It was whatever. We talked about the ins and outs of that. You seem like we talk about Eat, Sleep, Train. It's very introverted life, right? To be great at it. But you seem to find a good momentum where you're at. Explain to me, do you think San Diego's the spot now?
Yeah, for sure. And you get it. I mean, I didn't leave as young as you did, but like Boston was like, the East Coast was your home, and it instilled certain roots in you from the beginning that maybe if we didn't have those, then moved to the West Coast, maybe we would have actually fell into the crowd like a bunch of the people on the West Coast do. So I'm really grateful that I was, born and raised in Chicago. And then I even moved to Florida for like 8 years too. And I had a little bit of bodybuilding. I started my bodybuilding career there. So I was able to, try bodybuilding really everywhere. I tried it in the Midwest, except for the East Coast. I tried it in the Midwest, middle of nowhere, went to Florida, and then even in LA. And it still just never really caught on. Like, man, I feel like where I'm supposed to be. When I was at Gold's, I was like, oh my God, look, there's Dexter, there's Sean, there's you, I had certain excitements, but I never really felt like it was like mine and my home, and where I was perfectly fine to stay maybe for the rest of my life. And man, San Diego is definitely it. It not only is just San Diego itself amazing, and it's just great because, man, I don't want to do anything but bodybuilding. And I see a lot of people, they're going out and they're just doing a lot of things. And man, I only want to be great in the sport, and I really want to make a difference. And if I literally eat, slept, and train for the next 8 years, I really would have no grievance with that. I really don't. And that's why I don't care if I lose friendships or people in my life. I'm really okay. And I've already made that commitment that I'm going to do that. But San Diego also doesn't really have a bodybuilding kind of following since Nasser. And I feel like that's something that would be really cool that I could do, is to, like, if I went back to Gold's, I'm not really bringing bodybuilding back to Gold's. It's the Mecca. But if I could go somewhere and then now people are either saying like, oh, that's Sergio's gym, or San Diego, that's like where Sergio trains, or
I
now
say
we're going to start bringing, what's that? Yeah.
I say
They used to have
that.
they used to have expos at the San Diego at the gym when it was World Gym, in the parking lot. And you used to go down to them and then they're gone. They're non-existent. I think there's one San Diego show. So I would love to be someone great in the sport, of course, but I also want to be someone who maybe sparked a little bit of bodybuilding back in maybe an area that it wasn't really that high end. And I'm definitely going to stay in San Diego for at least as long as I can, for sure.
Wow. Sergio, talk a little bit about Columbus. So you head over there full of confidence. You know you did your homework. You're excited about going, all that stuff. And then they're shutting down the expo. And I know you were really looking forward to launch your new company, your new supplement company. I was so excited for you. And the first thing I thought when they canceled the expo is you. I was like, and I almost texted you, and you know what? I don't want to put this in his head. He doesn't need to think about that. He knows. But I felt bad for you because I know it was going to be your big launch for your new company called Cosmic Industries, right?
Yeah.
Cosmic Industries. How do you take the news? Because it seemed to me like you took it in stride. You didn't let that stress you out. You kept going about your business, and that's not easy to do. Talk about that real quick.
Well, one, when you have Aceto and Cormier, they got to be the most nonchalant, chill people that they literally lower my cortisol levels. Like they're literally a drug. And I think one, just having them at the house, it keeps me focused on what's really important. But also, man, I've been doing this. I've been doing this for a long time, and I grew up in this sport, so I know that the supplements and the business and stuff like that, that's secondhand. Without doing well on stage, nobody wants to buy your subs. Nobody wants to buy any of your clothing anyway. So I think because we were looking so good, and I had both of them. There was even one time where there was like a shipping issue that was going on with Victory, and Aceto literally from upstairs is like yelling. He's like, Sergio, come up here, and he's like, don't worry about that. And then, man, it just was like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm not even thinking about it anymore. And I think having them and knowing that, man, we might actually do really well in this, it kind of made me like, I'm not really worried about it. But in a side, I was able to actually make a new relationship with Paul at Bullfrog Nutrition, which you were going to go to. And that only happened because the expo didn't work out. And now I made so many new relationships with not only him, but the crazy amount of people that showed up there. And I wouldn't say that I made the same amount of money I would have at the expo, but I definitely made way more connections and probably helped more of my future by the expo even being closed. It was really weird, but that's life, man. That is how it is. Everything happens for a reason. And I'm so glad that I wasn't one of these huge people that spent $25,000, $50,000 on a booth or more. So we did lose money, but yeah, I think I was just so wanting to kill the show and my routine. And I just knew that I knew what happened had a possibility of happening. And I was just so wanting that to happen first that I kind of just pushed the business stuff aside. And luckily, my family, they run the businesses for me. I really don't have to stress about it. I really didn't have to worry about it. I mean, you got to see them and meet them. Yep. And that helped out a lot too, that I never even had to really even stress about it, even going into the show, let alone when it was canceled. They just handle it. They literally, they stress more for me than I stress myself. And I stress a lot. So my team and my family are really what made that not even really be an issue.
Jay, when I went to his place, I had flashback of your garage with you and Carrie packing all the orders, writing by hand the envelopes. I had such a, deja vu. I told him, I'm like, wow, this is what used to happen at Jay's house, back in the day when you were getting started with Carrie. It's great because he's going through it now. And, with your company, of course, Victory Clothing, you ship everything at your house. He's got all the boxes stacked in his house. It's really kind of cool. And I'm sure you sold a lot of shirts, man, leading up to the Arnold, right?
Man, it was crazy. It was nuts. I mean, yeah, I sold out of one shirt in 2 hours. It was insane.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yes, sir. You have a great team. There's a lot of influential people in your life that I'm not going to sit there and say, hey, there's too many, right? Between sponsorship, best friends, I know you have a whole team right now. Looking back over your career, who do you think was someone that you looked upon as like if you compare, like you compared your physique maybe, or your mindset, and or a little combination. I mean, listen, I know you come from great crazy genetics, and you know your family has a history of bodybuilding, your parents, you know. But besides looking up to your parents, because obviously, like, you know, but both of them were bodybuilders, right? Who did you look at? Like I looked at, for example, I looked at, you know, Bob Harris, and you know, I looked at Sylvester Stallone. Certain people like influenced me, of course, Arnold, right? But who kind of did you look upon as you come up? Because the road's been long for you, right? You started as a kid, and you mentioned you've been all over the place, and you've been through hardships. And I like where you're at right now. Like you're in a really good place, and like I'd be afraid of change at this point, right? But who did you kind of look at upon to give you kind of inspiration at certain points of your career?
Man, it's interesting. Yeah, because right, people just automatically assume, being the child of Mr. Olympia, that would be it. But yeah, it was. I literally had to move to Florida to get away from my dad to start my career. So it wasn't him. And if anything, all he did was ever talk bad about bodybuilding, because like we are never going to understand what he went through in the 60s and the 70s. And you know what? You can't change his mind about it. And no one could. And he literally died hating the IFBB. So he, if anything, scared me away from the IFBB. If it was the complete opposite. But I think there was different people. I think there might have been someone like physique-wise. Like I felt like I'm not going to have a flex wheeler waist. I'm not going to be able to have those kind of lines. But like Kevin was able to like compete with them, and his waist wasn't big, but it was a little bit bigger than theirs. And I always felt like maybe my physique could look like Kevin Levrone. So that was somebody like physically that I always wanted to look at. But like just their career and just kind of like someone who I want to be like, man, I don't know. That's really interesting. All I know is, and it's funny that you bring this up because this is something I want to talk about. And I've told you about it, and I've told Dave about it, but I want the people listening to know that there was a day where I quit bodybuilding and I was done. I decided that, man, you know what, this isn't for me, and it was just too much. And that was the 2015 Mr. Olympia, where they brought back all the Mr. Olympias, and they asked my dad to go to it, and he didn't want to go. And I ended up like talking him into going, and we went, but he was just such in a bad mood. He was very like unhappy. And I think going from just being, at Mandalay Bay, and, they used to have their like crazy booths where all the Mr. Olympias would be, to now it's at like the Orleans and the convention center, and they would stick like him and Larry Scott and Samir in the corners. And what they do, they still do it to Lee Haney. You have to like find him, and I think he was just very unhappy personally, and he took it out on me, and it was the worst trip of my entire life. And I literally got into a huge fight with him, and he like kicked me out of the hotel room. I didn't have a place to stay, and I literally was just walking around, because now I don't have tickets to the show. And I remember just walking around outside, and I saw Sean Perrine, and he was like, "Oh, come on in," and he like took me backstage. And this I'll tell everybody about, because I feel like this was the game changer for me, that I was going through such a horrible time. I was so unhappy. I literally was even calling my fiance and saying like, man, as soon as I get home, like I'm probably gonna have to go back to school to figure this out, because this isn't for me. And I just was so unhappy. And he took me backstage, and he's like, "Oh, have you met Jay?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't met him." "And you literally were throwing up in a garbage can. You were so sick." And he brought me over to you, and you just lifted up from the garbage can like it was nothing. Like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" And you like you were man. It was like, I can't explain it. You were just like, you were not sick at all, and you were just a great ambassador of the sport. And we talked, and you were like, "Oh, I'm going to throw an after party after. You should come to it." And then now it's time for you to go out. And I'm like, man, I got to go see this guy, because you went right back to the garbage can. You went right back to throwing up.
That must have been 2008, actually, right? That was 2008, I think.
Oh, yeah. Not 15. Right. I won my pro card in 15. Yeah. So it was way before. Right.
Yeah, it was 2008. It's the year I lost to Dexter, I bet.
No. You won. You definitely won that year. Yeah. Because that was what was so amazing. And then I run out to the front, around the side, because I'm like, man, I need to see what this guy's gonna look like. And I swear to God, Jay, I would have no idea that you just had your stomach or your face in a garbage can throwing up. It was so nuts. Smiling, like pumping up the crowd, yelling, getting so nuts. And then as soon as you got from backstage, immediately right back to bending over, and you were just struggling. And most people would have saw that and been like, oh my God, the same thing. Like, oh, I don't want to be like this. And it was the complete opposite for me. It showed me that, man, you know what? Everyone struggles. And the whole time you could be dealing with something and you can still go out and fucking win a Mr. Olympia and still play to the crowd and look like you're having the time of your life. But behind closed doors, this is hard, you know? So me being upset that this is hard and, you know, I'm struggling, blah, 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 it reminded me everyone is and everyone's dealing with it. And then I went to the after party with you, and there was like a time, I was telling Dave this, there was a time that Ronnie couldn't get into the VIP section we were in, the bouncers, because you went to the bathroom because you're still sick, still like somehow still being a good person, going to the after party. I would have been like, man, fuck this, I'm going home, I'm gonna go to bed. And you're still there, but still miserable, going back to the bathroom. And while you're in the bathroom, Ronnie came, and the bouncers were like, oh, who are you? You can't come in. So they wouldn't let him in. And then you like came back and you're like, oh yeah, he's cool. Like, like you let him into the VIP. And then you're sitting here and Ronnie's sitting here, and someone took a picture of it. I don't know where it is. I'd like to find it. But it's just me sitting between you, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is the greatest night of my life. And I just went from the worst night of my entire life to the best night, and it was only because of you and bodybuilding. And I just had this like resurgence that you're who I want to be like. You know, I might not be able to look like you physically, but you're the person I want to be, no matter how much of a shitty day I'm having. And I still do this today. And you were talking about it, Dave, with the show. No one who's met me dislikes me. It's only people that are only watching me on social media or stuff like that, because that's the thing that I always want to make sure, no matter how much of a bad mood I'm in. I mean, you saw people come up to me and want to talk during the workouts. I'm never going to be that guy who's mean or just angry or even short with them, because I love this. And exactly, you could have been like, hey, how's it going? You know, I'm going to go back to being sick. Cool story. And I would have never bodybuilded again. So now I know sometimes you might even just have a conversation with someone and you literally can now make them top 5 at the Arnold one day. And I have to thank you for that. So to who I want to embody you, Jay, like completely on every level. I mean, me and my old fiance used to watch you and Carrie train, and I was like, oh, that's how we're gonna be, because we've known each other since third grade. We went to prom together, and luckily I'm still able to have her in my life, and she still helps me. But that's who we used to watch. We didn't used to watch like Brand and Johnny. We would literally watch you and Carrie, and it was just more of that's my lifestyle. So I mean, in a roundabout way, that would be the answer.
So hold on one second. For people watching right now, if you have that picture of Sergio with Ronnie and Jay on your side, please send it to Sergio.
Oh, Sergio, now I know when this was. This was 2010, because I actually had to go. They had all the Olympians, and we went to see Joe Weider after to do like a photo, like an
off. Yes.
And you know, I was really sick in 2010. I didn't feel good, but I remember driving to wherever Joe Weider was, and your dad was there, and Lee Haney and all the former Mr. Olympias were there, and they wanted to get a picture for Flex or whatever. And then I had to go to the party.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Oh boy.
So thank you.
Listen, you know what? I usually have a great memory, but you just brought back some of the good times of, like, you know, finishing the shows. And you're right. Like backstage, I remember meeting so many people, and like I always took time to go to every single rookie when I was either winning or second or whatever, just because I knew the nervousness, right? And I just hate that sometimes backstage, and I don't know how it was at the Arnold for you, especially because you're so vocal, right? So like you said, people have opinions, and especially the athletes, when you're telling, say, I'm going to beat this guy, sometimes the guys don't take that well, right? So I think I always went and approached those guys that were rookies and said, listen, you know, I remember telling Brandon Curry his first Olympia, like, man, you know, it's just, you know, you're the big leagues, you're here, congratulations, get up there and enjoy it, take it all in, don't miss the moment. And, you know, he reminded me back when he came off stage after winning this year, he said, you know, you remember 2006, like, you know, you came up to me and gave me the motivation. I hear it all the time. And it's just crazy because I don't do that as like, oh, so they'll remember later. It's just, I just knew I was there one time, and it was terrible for me because, like, people look at each other and they size each other up, but they don't want to say anything to each other. And to me, that's just, it's kind of whack, right? I don't like that, like that, how it is sometimes.
Yeah, I don't like that either, for sure. It's like the Pumping Iron movie where they were backstage, but they still did it in like a funny way, like, oh, I watch you, I see you, you know. But now it's just this, like, it's just I got to get bigger than you, And it is, and it's like, why? It's not going to make a difference. You're not going to be able to. It's not like the old days. You're not going to be able to now Arnold people where you got into their head, like Arnold did to my dad, because of how my Arnold was with my dad backstage. He beat my dad. But those don't happen anymore. If you're on, you're on. You're not going to come out and now all of a sudden you're posing off or your condition's now off because someone backstage, outsmarted you or outpsyched you. So yeah, the backstage rivalry, and a lot of it has to do with social media. I couldn't be the biggest person to say that I wish there was a way that we could separate social media for open bodybuilding, because it helps out a lot. And exactly, I get to meet so many people and reach out to so many people that are even telling me stories, like I said about you, that I've done to them. But it's putting a lot of us against each other. I feel like now there's just this one pot, and now we all have to put our hands into it, where before it was just kind of like it was for everybody because there was no other competition. You don't have to worry about Joe Blow, who's never done a show before, doing his ebook, now is making more money than you, So now you have to be like this, cutthroat. And I really don't like that. And I don't get that, luckily enough. I mean, like backstage at the Arnold, Akeem was mean mugging me. And Patrick, of course, is all about that he's going to win the Arnold. And he was mean mugging me. For the most part, people still treat me kind of respectfully because I think they know I would rather have someone who says how they feel than pretend that they're not. And then you find out they did some interview or something on the side or said something about you. No one's ever going to catch me being different to them in person, and then they found out I said something different on the side. So I think I get a different kind of respect. But you're right, this battling backstage thing, and you're right. You throw in when you're nervous, that already is going to make things way worse. So I'm glad, but I think you only do that, Jay, because you started from the back, and I think that was a huge thing. Like you literally started from the back, and not to gripe on Phil or anything like that, but people get on him about how he acts and how he treats people and stuff like that. And I think it's just like on any given day, which Phil you get. I think you can have one of the greatest people or someone who's...
You know what, Sergio? You and I both are friends. Like we know the Phil, right? And Phil was always the very, very humble. He just sometimes like he's in the zone, right? And Phil is very confident, okay? But he should be. Like his physique is unbeatable, like even in this era, in my opinion. But we know the real Phil, and I've defended him for a long time because, he's such a genuine person. You guys are very similar, like how you came up. Dave, you remember Phil at the store, and he'd come and hang out for hours, and like it was just he would talk to everybody. I mean, sometimes you couldn't get Phil to stop talking to people. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it sounds familiar.
We used to be lined up in that Muscle Tech booth, and I would be last because, they always put the biggest names, and he was the guy before me. And it's like people couldn't get to me because Phil would keep him there for an hour talking, being so friendly, But Sergio, explain to me the first call out. Now, I was a little disappointed because I didn't feel that they put you in the mix, and I was ecstatic when I even told Dave, when the night show came about. And I said, fuck, Sergio's in it. You know what I mean? And I was very disappointed. So talk to me, what went through your mind in that first call out as they're getting the first call for the Arnold Classic?
Oh, man, I know. I wish I could say that I was like, oh, I'm confident, I'm not worried. But, man, I was losing it because I wasn't like, I think some bodybuilders immediately would just be like, oh, screw that guy. His glutes are shitty, blah, blah, blah. I literally started looking at myself like, am I not as good as I think I am? Like, am I, because you've met people in the sport where they're like, I divorced my wife because she didn't believe in me. I quit my job because I'm going to be a pro, and they're never going to win a show ever in their life. So no matter what, you start to have that, like, am I that guy? Like, holy shit. Like, am I literally unaware of who I am? And I'm looking at people that I know that I'm better than. And I just remember, like, you know what? I just got to keep my cool and remember, because I know this sport, I know this isn't an NPC show, and this is not my last chance. I know that not only do we get judged at the night show, but man, you're being judged by the best judges, and you're not going to be able to come out and have gnarly condition, and they're not going to be like, actually, let's bring these guys out. And I just had a feeling, and then they did last minute, right, the last call out of prejudging, they put us together. But then I was still upset because I'm standing on the side, and I'm like, man, I'm like seventh, like I'm battling for seventh. This is so nuts. And on any given day, you have 5 past champions, a Mr. Olympia. That's great. I'll take 7th, but not when I was looking like that. I really felt like I was in the mix. I should have been in the mix. And then they brought us back out, and I don't remember who was in that call out, But whoever I was with, I blew them out of the water, that they actually did another call out and then brought Kuklo back in and brought Cedric back in. And I was just like, oh, thank God. But then they still never put me next to Kuklo. So then by then I knew I'm battling for fifth or maybe for fourth. And then I just left prejudging. I was telling Aceto, like, man, because you hear horror stories. And that's even one thing that you said to me when I did the Olympic, just hope that you get looked at, you know? And not until you said that I even realized, man, that's a possibility. Like, there's so many people. And I tell people all the time, you should test judge a show because you'll see how fast you have to do it. It's really hard. And sometimes you get lost in the mix. It just happens. So I remember thinking like, oh man, I didn't even stand next to fourth. And I'm like, oh, am I about to get fifth and never stand next to fourth? And then, you know what? Again, because I have Aceto and Chris, I didn't let my stress get to me. I didn't let anxiety get to me. I felt like we maybe even dried out a little bit better. Or I filled out a little bit better. I wouldn't say I dried out more. And then they did an extra call out at the night show. And I couldn't have been any happier. It didn't even matter. I even told Kukla, I'm like, it doesn't even matter if you beat me or not. I got to stand next to you. And I was so happy that I just got a chance. And then by then I knew that I was fifth or fourth. I really thought I was fourth. I really thought I was going to get fourth. But they gave me fifth. And I'm okay with that. Like, I really am, because everyone in front of me is on their way out. They really are. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay doing the waiting game, no matter what, as long as nobody I beat is going to catch up to me or pass me. And the people that I'm losing to have been doing this for 10 years longer than me, I'm okay with that. I'm all right, because I know that if I just stick it out and keep doing what I'm doing, I don't think I'm going to gain 12 pounds of muscle every single year and a half. But whatever we're doing is working. So I really was really happy with that. And I had talked to Cormier about it, that even the year that he lost to you, that all everyone wanted to talk about was how Cormier should have won. And he felt like he ended up leaving almost like the winner, because that's all everyone was talking about and blah, blah, blah. And he said, sometimes you can do not as well as you want, but you can leave actually being the winner of the show. And except for Dexter, you know, in that moment of just his being his last Arnold, I really feel like I won the Arnold. I really feel like I was the highlight of the Arnold. And it was just such a great moment. And I'm not saying that like as me, I'm saying like if I was a fan and I was watching it, I would be like, holy shit, this guy had the show of his life. And people went home talking about me, and I'll take that over anything.
Sergio, talk about that very moving speech from Arnold and what it was like for him to tell you that. And it must have been emotional, man, right?
Well,
it was.
I just want to say you predicted the best poser, Sergio. That was pretty cozy. So when the speech happened, so talk a bit about that too. How'd you know How'd you know you were gonna win that, bro?
Yeah, because who was second? Who was going to be second for that? I know. That's what I even said in interviews too. I'm like, I'm not trying to be like cocky about my routine, my posing. It's just that it's non-existent in the sport, and unfortunately, there's no one else doing a routine. So, like last year when Josh won, he was the only one who did a routine. He got $10,000 because he, a few minutes every week, practiced on a routine, and it easily was the easiest money I've ever won before. But I also predicted that me, Cedric, and Kuklo were going to be battling for fifth. I even called that. And that's why when there was all this hype about someone who's never even done an Arnold or even won a real show before, I was trying to explain to people like, man, this bodybuilding thing is different. And you have to figure out where you really are, not where the fans think you're supposed to be, but really where you are. And I called it. I said me, Cedric, and Kuklo are going to be battling for fifth. And I couldn't have been any more on about that and winning the routine. But the thing with Arnold, like, it's different because I've known him my whole life, you know, like he stayed at my house when I was a little kid in Chicago. Like, obviously, whenever I was with my dad, you know, I would see him. And then I passed out the trophies at the Arnold Australia one year. So I talked to him backstage one year for a long time. But it was the first time he ever spoke to me as me. And it's really hard to explain this, like having someone talk to you for 15 years, even longer, and you're always just someone's son, you know. They only want to tell you stories about your dad, of course, the good stories, you know, because he's passed away. They only want to talk good about him, and they want to tell you all about the good stuff. And no matter what, it's the same thing you did backstage, like exactly like you said. You didn't even remember having that conversation with me, Jay, but you automatically had this certain amount of respect for my dad that it just trickled down into me, that even though you literally were mid throwing up, you were going to take that time to talk. I mean, you probably would have did it with anybody, so it's not really a good example, but you did. It was just like you had this automatic, like, oh, because Sean was like, hey, this is Sergio's son. And you see it in people's eyes. As soon as it's like, oh, this is Sergio's son, it changes. It's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And it's a different, so this was the first time, and it's been happening since the Arnold, people are talking to me as me. So Arnold, we were talking backstage before we walked out, and if you look, we're actually finishing our conversation as we're walking out because he's talking about me, and he thinks that I could be a good future Mr. Olympia because he feels like there's like people that are either classic that are too small or people that are too big and they don't have really classic shape, and me being able to be 280 on stage and kind of have classic lines, that was something that he would like, blah, blah, blah. But then, and then, right, then you had to turn it on. And I get it. You had to do the whole like speech of my dad and talking about it. And him saying that he was proud of me was definitely not something I was expecting. People want to tell me all the time about how proud my dad would be and stuff like that. I just let people talk about that because I don't really want to talk about that. I don't really know how it would be. I think sometimes people are trying to pretend that I wasn't bodybuilding while my dad was still around. I think they act like I started bodybuilding and my dad died. I was competing for 10 years while he was around, and he never went to a show. So him talking about my dad being proud of me and stuff like that, that's really great for everybody else, and it made a great moment. But him saying that he was proud of me and has been watching my career, and just how people look at you different when they talk to you and they're talking to you rather than they're just talking to a son of a Mr. Olympia. And it was just so noticeable that it did it. Like I was saying backstage, I finally just felt like I was me. I finally felt like I lost the junior. It was so weird. Like I'm just Sergio Oliva. And there happened to be another guy that had the same name a long time ago. But as crazy as it is I had every bit of that Arnold planned. The speech, the routine. I picked the song for the routine, Dave and Jay, like 6 years ago. I picked that song so long ago. And I was like, man, that's the song. Whenever I do the Arnold, that's going to be the song that I'm going to do. So I had everything planned out. But then you walk out and he says that to you and you're just like, and I forgot everything I was going to say. I forgot about a bunch of other stuff. So it was really cool. And it was like just like just like being held up at the Mr. Olympia. It was another moment that I don't think is ever going to happen again. Because when is there ever going to be, it would have to be like you having your own show and then Ronnie's son now is doing your show. That's the only way that that's ever going to be possible again to happen, you know? And neither one of your kids are going to be a pro because, man, that would be, I don't want my kid to be a pro. I get it now when my dad didn't want me to be a pro. I want him to be like an IFBB judge or something else.
So that leads us to Australia. So I texted you right as you were embarking on the plane to go to Australia. You're like, I'm going. Here's my ticket. You know, I saw your ticket on social media. And between the USA and Australia, they canceled the show. And I'm thinking of you. I'm like, Jesus Christ, can you get a break? You know, so you land in Australia. Tell me what happens when you hear this news in your head.
Right. So yeah. So I already knew that there was a chance that it might be canceled. Like I was texting you before, but man, I was so excited because Dexter messaged me like a couple days before, and he's like, fuck this, man, I'm not going. Like he's like, Gail's not gonna let me go. I'm not getting sick. So low key, I was like, I just moved up another spot. Like, all right, okay. You know, I definitely was not talking him into doing the Arnold. I'll tell you that. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, Dex. Yeah, don't go, don't get sick. And then Bonak already said that he wasn't gonna do it. I already felt like I was catching up to Kuko right at the end of the night show. If they would have brought us out one more time, I swear to God, I would have beat Kuko because I was getting better and he was fading. So, and then I saw him partying with 50 Cent like a couple days after Ohio, and I'm like, yes. I just moved up 2 spots. I'm like, I'm ready to go. I'm like, it's going to be me and Rami standing next to each other. And I was like, I'll take a second place to that monster any day. And then it gets canceled. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe this is happening. But you know what? I was already coming anyway. And again, like me and my family, we've killed it because we killed it for 2 years. This isn't just a 19-week prep. We took the whole year off last year. We did nothing but be in San Diego. So we were always going to come here and come to Queensland too, which is where I'm at, which is like the Miami Beach of Australia. So we already had this booked. We already had our tickets planned. I was definitely not going to lose that money. And of course, I have so many friends and family here now that I was going to come regardless. But I was upset because I finally thought I was going to be able to just stand next to just me and Rami, because it's hard to explain to people that don't understand bodybuilding. Like sometimes you can put somebody into a lineup and it changes the whole lineup. So like Rami standing next to Bonak and Dexter, 2 shorter people, it's going to then be just more like a condition game, you know, and it's just a different look. If you throw in someone who's 6 foot tall, it changes the dynamic of that lineup. So I thought finally I'm just going to be able to stand next to him, just me and him. And I was really excited, but it immediately switched to, man, I am so thankful that I was able to do Ohio. Like the amount of time that I was mad about Australia must have lasted a few minutes because I immediately just started thinking Blessing and Nathan, these guys were been prepping for Australia and they were coming. And Blessing was his pro debut. I couldn't even imagine being a pro for now 2 years. You're prepping for this show. Like it would be like me and Aceto having this relationship. We're building for this show and then it gets canceled. And now me and Aceto don't even talk anymore. You know, now Blessing and Neil aren't together anymore. He never got to do his pro debut. Like so much bad happened to so many other people. And it just made me think like if this got, because they tried to cancel it. I went to go meet the Lormers a couple of days before the Arnold, and you could see that they were stressing out because they're like, man, they're going to cancel the Arnold. And I remember looking at Cormier like, they're not going to cancel the Arnold. Like, that's ridiculous, you know? And they almost did. If the Arnold in Ohio was, what, 9 days later, they would have canceled it. And then everything that happened, the Arnold, the speech, the routine, it would have never happened. And then people would be back to Sergio's full of it. He's never going to be anything, blah, blah, blah. He's riding his dad's coattails. And then I would be back in the same position I was. And I'm just so thankful. I don't have to live that life ever again. No matter what, I'm never going to be Sergio's just riding his dad's coattails. Only people saying that are scumbags because I literally proved it now. So Arnold, it was sucked. And I also do think, why couldn't we have just been judged by ourselves? My dad and Arnold were judged in an empty room with judges for years. They didn't bring crowds in until way late. So that was the only thing I didn't understand. Why can't we just have me, Rami? I even called Josh. I'm like, because Rami got stuck in Dubai, and then someone else, Nathan got stuck, and he couldn't fly out. So I remember I texted Josh, who lives here, and I'm like, bro, I think it's just gonna be me and you in the Arnold. It's gonna be a 2-person show, you know, joking around. But why not? Why couldn't there have just been a bunch of pros in an empty room being judged by people? And that was the only thing I didn't understand, is that we still should have been able to be judged with no crowd. If we could do it for prejudging, then why can't we do it for a night show? So that was a little disheartening. But I'm just so thankful that I was able to have Ohio. And as much as I always want to be like, oh, I got bad luck, you know, and I'm always pessimistic, shit always happens to me. Not this year, because I was able to get on stage and I was able to actually compete and do the 19 weeks of hell of prep that I did and put it to use, because I couldn't imagine running a marathon race and right before you're going to step over the finish line, they're like, race is canceled. You know, like I would die. I would have lost it. Like, I don't even when I was here and I had to go back to eating regular food, I almost felt guilty. Like I didn't accomplish anything. I didn't even earn anything. I've never done a prep and I'm prepping and then you're just, all right, I'm just going to not prep anymore. It was so weird.
You've lived at many different places over there. So at first, when you first got there, that was actually the place you were planning on staying at and stuff. But then your stay got extended. So talk about that a little. You were supposed to come back and you didn't. So now you're there how long? Right.
So we were always going to come here to Queensland. So we actually left Melbourne the day they closed the border. So luckily our trip was just planned to come here. Otherwise I would have been stuck in Melbourne, which for people that have never been there, it's just like a metropolitan area. It's like a city. It's like Chicago or New York. So it's not very Australia-like to us Americans, what we think when we watch movies. So I would have been stuck there. So luckily I came here just in time before they closed the border. But then they closed the border to the States, and now I was stuck here. And then they started to open it up, but then there was this like 5-stop flight that you had to take, which would have cost like $6,000. Then I would have lost the $3,000 I had for my other flight. So except for my dog, I was like, man, fuck it. Why am I going to go back? And then I saw the gym got raided. Did you see that? Did you see the gym in San Diego got raided by cops?
Oh, yes.
Because, you know, so because that's what I was thinking too. I was like, oh, I'll go back. You know, Rick will let me train because he does that sometimes when they're closed for Christmas. He'll let Eddie and a bunch of pros train. So he even said that. He's like, oh, I'll let a couple people train. But man, again, because of social media and people and their stupid selfies cannot not post it, the whole gym got busted. They sent all the cops in there. And then I talked to them and they said, no way is anyone going to work out for months. So I would have went back and I would have just been sitting around not doing anything. And here I have gyms, I can train. I'm actually been getting really close with another relationship I would have never had is with a pro named Aaron Politis. He's a 212 guy. He was actually, he did the Olympia. And he was getting ready for New York to qualify for the Olympia too. So in a roundabout way, yeah, now I have this like new friend that's in a pro and he's been helping me out and we've been training together and it's really been good. And there's so much bad that's happening in the world and it's really hard to like stay positive and look at the good. But if none of this would have happened, I wouldn't have made the relationships I did, and I'm able to kind of be out here and just enjoy this time. I'm trying to let my body like rest at the same time, so it's really good. And I mean, look at this place; it's like fucking insane. Like, I'm never leaving.
I gotta tell you, man, we've been friends since you moved to Venice, and I've done interviews pretty much with you the whole entire time. And it's funny because if I go back, the way you are today compared to the way you were before, not that you weren't great before, but your attitude is completely 180. And I don't know if it's because you're in San Diego or everything's happy and you're on a good path. That's what I keep telling Jay and Chris. I say I think Sergio's on a really good path right now. And if he stays on that path, he's gonna go far. And it really comes out in your demeanor and attitude and your interviews. It's great. I'm so happy for you.
Thanks. That means a lot.
Yeah.
You would know.
Yeah, you've changed. I don't know if you can see it or if you're just happier than you used to be, but there's a big difference. Yeah. What do you think, Jay? I mean, you've known him for a while too.
Yeah, he's just in a much better place. But Sergio, what message are you trying to send to your followers now? We know you have a joking personality. I love your memes that you post up, and in the beginning, people were kind of like, Sergio, you're out moving around and da 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 da. But do you have a message that you've been? I mean, people must be DMing you and reaching out to you, and they're looking for positivity during these times. And we're in okay, when are the gyms going to open? I mean, people are starting to get a little frustrated now. What do you kind of that reach out? What are you giving them for motivation? Are you saying hey, you know what? Follow this or read this, or, you put out their content, which is awesome. It's giving, entertainment to a lot of people. But I mean, how do you think people should handle these moments?
Yeah, I always try to be like that. Even with my story, I'm never going to really be posting chicken and rice and stuff on my story. I feel like there's a million other bodybuilders that just post bodybuilding stuff on their story. And and I don't, you and your guys' cooking is so funny. It's so good. It's completely different. It's not just like, here's my meal. That's it. It's different, especially her cooking. Especially the Spanish. What's up with the tomatoes though? I eat sliced tomatoes. I just never met anyone else that eats sliced tomatoes besides me.
Sergio, we used to grow these in my garden in Massachusetts. That was the big thing. And I don't know how you were, but growing up on a farm, we weren't allowed anything bad. So we grew our vegetables. We weren't allowed any sugar cereals. We used, fresh eggs and meat and everything. We went to butcher shops. We didn't shop at grocery stores for meat. So for me, I have this kind of I love cucumbers and I love tomatoes, but there's a wise tale of my friend, Dr. Zach, who we shouted out recently. He was in Greece and he was on vacation. He met this guy and he told me this whole story when I went and did my UK tour, how the guy, it looked amazing and he was healthy. He was 80 something years old and he eats a lot of tomatoes, but there's a lot of anti-cancer. It's a great vegetable to have. And for me, it's when I want to crave something, I put some salt on a tomato and I slice it up. And for me, that's amazing. Or I do cucumbers and I use vinegar or whatever. And I eat those instead of having chips or cookies or whatever. Because listen, we all get our sweet tooth, right? So that's kind of why I do that, And that's why I put out what I eat, because I want people to see hey, just because I retired doesn't mean I still don't live the lifestyle. I admire what you do. I look at you as a fan, even though we're friends and I've achieved crazy status, people like you still, I look at your social media and I aspire. And I say to Dave every day, fucking Sergio, man, he's living it up over there,
Every day. He tells me every day.
Yeah, I'm this guy, he goes from the beach in San Diego to Queensland. And I know because I toured there, bro. I guest posed over there. And I'm this guy, he goes from summertime to summertime,
That's awesome.
I guess that's your positive message, live your life. And I love that about you, because a lot of bodybuilders, you can sit there and say, Jay, all I want to do is train. But dude, you have you're still doing everything you want to do, which is awesome.
Yeah, he's not waiting till he's retired to live his life. He's doing it today. It's great.
it's only just because I did go through almost 2 years straight of living in a hole. And now it's more that I feel like my family, they deserve it because they're the ones who literally give up their life to do this. It'd be different if I was doing this all the time. I literally didn't leave my house for 2 years. And then now we're being stuck here and we're just making the best out of it. But I've been trying to tell everybody too, the best message that we can use during all this is just to remember that there's way worse going on in bodybuilding, and not just like the deaths and those kind of things, not those horrible things. Of course, that's always going to be worse. I'm talking about, say you're prepping for the Olympics. You're prepping for 8 years, and now the Olympics is canceled. So we're tripping about the New York Pro and these other small shows. We've been prepping for what, months? Can you imagine prepping for years? And so there's so much worse going on, and there's a lot of other things going on. And I also think in a roundabout way, especially for bodybuilders, it's forcing us to kind of go back to old school ways. Like, I'm now having to reinvent my old personal training brain cells to create exercises and create workouts. And that's just something we take for granted. We walk into a gym and it's just like, I'm going to use this hammer strength machine. You know, I just did seated cable row on the floor for the first time in my 15 years of being a pro, where my dad and, you know, all the other golden era guys, they always did it off the floor. You know, it was always like making these makeshift exercises, and it's kind of forcing us to kind of go back to a classic era in a roundabout way. And right, everyone's now doing abs, and we're doing all these exercises that we kind of took for granted. So I think it's kind of cool for the bodybuilding world that we're going back to kind of like a time zone where this is all they had. We're just think everyone's complaining about things my dad would have killed for. And that's kind of like crazy. And I think when we go back to regular life, I think then we're going to be like, oh, I love this. I appreciate this. Where we just took it for granted. We did. It was just the next show, the next show, the next show. And now I'm like excited to go to this garage gym, or I'm going to go to this other gym where someone's sneaking me in the back so I can use a leg curl machine, you know, something I can't invent myself. And we've never had these thoughts one time in our life, my generation. And I think that's kind of interesting, and I wouldn't like all the deaths, of course, but I kind of like everybody being forced to kind of like reinvent themselves.
Do you have any idea when you're gonna be coming back to San Diego, or not as of yet?
Well, I heard that now the border's open. They're actually flying any American stuck out back in, but I'm not gonna come back to the gym's open. There's just no reason. If I went back, see, because I can be all happy here, I'm able to train, and I can keep this positive attitude. But if I was stuck, quarantined, not being able to train at all, I probably would lose my mind back there. So I'm not going to go back to the gyms.
You can actually stay over there. It's no problem. You can stay as long as you want, as of right now.
I moved here when I was with my wife. When we were going through the visas. So I've already moved to Australia before. So this is nothing new. I just realized I've been going to the the wrong part of Australia. I went to Melbourne 8 times, and I've never been here before. And like Jay was saying, this place is like Vegas and Miami Beach put together. It's like there where they go for a vacation. So it's like another world. I really feel like I'm on an island. So here, I could stay here all day, really.
Where is Cormier?
Cormier's loving the Australia life himself.
But he's still on vacation with you guys, right?
Yeah, he's here. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I got a place here that has an extra room, so whenever he wants to use it, he can. But
he knows Australia better than all of us, bro.
He's like Crocodile Dundee.
All of us put together, bro. We literally got off the plane, and he's just been getting blown up left and right. He's like the celebrity out here.
You may have to get on the show, Jay. That's funny. Oh,
yeah, you definitely should, because he knows more about this country than I do. And thank God I'm here with my family, because if it was just me and Chris, I don't know what would be going on. I think that would be. Luckily, the girls are here, so they're keeping us tame and on point. But if it was just me and him, it would be mayhem.
So, Sergio, tell me, does the prep continue now? Like, you kind of staying in striking distance? And tell me, what's the food of choice in Australia for the people that never been there before? Like, what do people like? What's the Australian dish that people maybe try to get you to try or whatever out there?
Bro, they literally eat their national animal. They eat the kangaroo. They do. It's so wild. I thought it was a joke, but it's like, man, they eat like pumpkin and kangaroo. Like that is their like two, that's their carb and their meat. And you can like order at like fancy restaurants, like fine dining ass restaurants too. It's not just like a honky Australian thing. It's like a legit thing.
You tried it?
Yeah, is it good?
Yeah, I tried it. It would be like venison. It would just be like our deer. It's very gamey. I'm not into the gamey meat. But
Like
what I'm
chicken.
gonna do, yeah. I mean, I tell people all the time, that's why it was so easy for me to move out here when I was with my wife. It is the closest thing to America. The transition of grocery stores and everything else, except for driving on the other side of the road, which is a little different. I drove on the wrong side a couple of nights ago and thankfully there was nobody on the road, but I definitely was just driving on the right side, like, oh shit, this is not the right side of the road. But no, everything's been the same. I'm just cleaning my body out. I definitely want to take a break. It was a long prep because I did 19 weeks, but again, I did a year and a half of trying to get ready for that show. So I'm just using this time as a sign that I need to clean my body out, take a break. I'm upping my training, which is something I never do. Usually after a show, I take a break. I'm like the Kevin LeBron. I swear to God, I'll do a show and then not train for like 2 months. I'm so retarded why I do that. And I don't know. So I told myself I'm not going to do that anymore. So now I'm actually training more than I ever have. But at the same time, I want longevity in this. I want to be able to do this for 8 to 10 more years. Sean showed us that, man, you can win the Olympia at 45. So that means I have 10 years, possibly in this. So I plan on going till that age at this. So I'm just, I've been doing morning cardio on the kayak, so it's really cool. This house came with like kayaks. It's pretty awesome. So I'm just trying to I'm trying to focus on my health. I don't really ever do cardio unless I'm getting ready for a show. And that's something that I've seen you do big time in the off season off season. Your life is off season now, is that you do cardio. And it's just, man, not only does it help you health-wise, your heart, blood circulation, but it helps you eat better too. And that's a big problem for me is I only eat good when I'm getting ready for a show. And then when I can eat whatever I want, I'm eating like 2 or 3 times because I'm trying to get like huge calorie meals. And then I'm full for 4 hours. So I'm actually trying for the first time to stay on prep for the most part.
Wow, that's awesome.
How many times have you opened the wrong side of the car?
It's more like how many times have I not? That is the for sure. It's just automatic. It's just automatic. You just go to that side of the car. I would rather it be where I go to the wrong side of the car when I'm getting into the car rather than driving. That's only happened twice so far where I was driving on the wrong side. I'm okay if I'm driving, but if like I'm in a parking lot, you automatically just go to the right side of the road, and that's where it always happens bad for me, and I keep getting caught. And the metric system, I'm still trying to learn the metric system. I'm literally the guy in the weight room, like, all right, kilos, 2.2 pounds. It's like, oh my God, I need a calculator.
Sergio, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it. Jay, thank you for taking the time. Unless you have something else you want to say, you want to close, Jay?
Sergio, let's people that are following you, where else they're following your Instagram. Let's shout out your Instagram and also the clothing brand you said is doing tremendous. Are you still shipping orders and the supplements?
Yeah, still shipments and everything's going out. Luckily, I have a friend back at home who's handling the subs, and then I have the clothes. I've been shipping them out from here, and then I actually have some back at home for people that are in the States that are like local to the California area. I just ship from there. I only just wanted to say, I watched Flex's show, and he was talking about how he went to your house. He went to your old house. I had the similar kind of feeling too, but what I did is I used Victor to kind of get in good to go to the house. So Victor liked my best friend Katie, and Katie did not like Victor. But we went to Universal Studios with my wife, her, and him, and the whole time I'm like, you better be good with this guy because I'm trying to go to Jay's house and we're trying to get in good. So she literally was nice to Victor this whole time and kept saying like, I'm doing one for the team. I'm doing one for the team. So that's our joke, is that because of her flirting with Victor, because he did. Victor's the one that was like, hey, yeah, why don't you come over with Cody? Me and Cody came over to your house, and we got to hold the trophies and tap the balls. Like, it was literally a highlight.
I remember
sure,
when he went to your house. You told me that, Jay, Cody and him. Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
it was.
sat right on this couch right here, and I gave him the pep talk, and I said, if you guys want to be great, you know, gotta be this, this, and this, and look at where it's heading now. You know.
I can't believe
It's true.
you pimped Katie Tots to go to Jay's.
I did, exactly. I told her that I was going to say it on the interview because she still, up to this day, is like, you better thank me for getting us in, Jay.
Oh, and listen, you could have came anyway. It's just, you know, it's just coordinating when we're all in Las Vegas. And I mean, Stanimo came here. That was on his bucket list. And, you know, we all have our things. But listen, man, it's always a pleasure. And, you know, I'm so glad everything's going well. We really wanted to get you on and, you know, get your mindset where you are in Australia. And, you know, there's so many people that are so positive about what you've done this year. And let's just, you know, keep working towards hopefully, you know, the year continues as such. And, you know, we'll catch up to you when you're back in San Diego.
So let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Are we on for a pre-Olympia series if it's happening?
Of course. I'm not doing any series with anybody else. If anything, only getting ready for this Arnold, I realized too, and I know it. I was the guy on the social media like, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. And man, I really have changed. And if anything, I'm so done with the drama. I'm so done with the Palombos and all the people who have to look for clickbait so they'll watch the videos and they use me to like lie to these people and create these beefs that I'm just done. I'm not doing any more. I haven't done any. I did a one post interview with Muscular Development just because Ron has been in my corner since I started this, and I'm done. I'm done with these negative kind of like medias. And no, if anything, I'm not doing any more lead up into a show with anyone but you guys. So you don't have to worry about that. I want to change a lot about the sport, but unfortunately, social media. I get it. Bodybuilding's been boring. It has, and we have to like create stuff so we can get a buzz. But we don't have to do that anymore. Now there's actually so many great people that are getting into bodybuilding. There's a lot of up and coming great pros that are coming where that's going to do it on its own. You and Ronnie never had to bash each other personally. You never said anything about each other personally. Phil and Kai never did that. And it was just two people that had their fans who loved one, the other fans loved the other. And that created it on its own. And I want to do that just kind of with physiques on stage, not this like I'm going to do an interview and then you're going to do an interview where we could have just talked. We could have just talked on the phone. Like this shit is old. So no, I'm never going to do anything with anyone else, let alone that was easy. It was so easy, Dave. It was so much fun. We just got to talk Cormier. We have to make Cormier move to San Diego. So that's my only stipulation.
Well, listen, make sure you fans shout out to Sergio. We want to see him start his YouTube channel too. So make sure you guys message him and say, start your YouTube channel, Sergio. We want to get into the mindset of Sergio.
Only if you help me. Only if you help me. You are the don of social media now.
I thank you so much for coming on JayTV. Both of you guys, really appreciate to have you. And I think it was a great interview. And best of luck over there, Sergio. Keep posting all your positive messages. And Champ, on to the next one, man.
On to the next one.
All right. Dave Max 6, Jay Cutler, and Sergio Oliva, and we're out.